welcome to this week's video. So this week I've picked myself up two very neglected Nintendo Switches from eBay. So as you can see, one's a Switch Lite and one's a regular Switch. The Switch Lite is absolutely battered, completely scratched to hell, really rough condition. Looks like someone's been very angry with it. So I spent £62 on the pair of these, £30 each, didn't think it was too bad. So we'll start off, we'll plug them in. So here's my meter going in the Switch Lite, and we've got a blue screen as well. So not only is it absolutely knackered, it's also got a blue screen, so double whammy. That's a real bad one. And we'll go to the normal regular Switch. So it's, again, rough condition, very dirty. Looks like it's been living in someone's shed. We'll plug this one in. And then we get a charge on there, and we get a charge symbol in the corner, which is not what I was expecting. And now it turns on. So we'll just see. So we need to connect the Joy-Cons. So we just need to get a couple of Joy-Cons. We get a charge on the rear as well, so there doesn't seem to be an issue with the port either, which is always a bonus. Have a little look on the side, we can see there's damage to the rail, so this will be why. So the left Joy-Con's connecting, there's massive damage to the right, so that Joy-Con's not connecting, so we're still going to have to open it up. So we'll start off with the Switch Lite. So we just need to get a tri-wing screwdriver out to crack on with. And then we're just going to take the 4 screws out the back, and there's a few posi headed screws on the bottom and the top, and then we just get a lipper to unconnect the side. So we just click it along and then just gently prise the back off, and then there we go, we get that off. And then we can see a little bit of damage to the back shield, so we'll take the heat shield off. So I was just generally going to decide to write this one off, but I thought, why the hell not just give it a reflow? I'm still not fully confident in doing a full reball, so a reflow will be enough. So I'm just going to hold down on the RAM, and then we'll insert the charging port, and we still get a blue screen there. So I'll hold on the other RAM, and then we'll insert the charger again, see if we get anything. And then the second time we've got a battery symbol, so straight away that says that there's an issue with the RAM, and hopefully a reflow will be enough. So we just need to take everything out. I'm not a massive fan of the Switch Lites for the amount of screws and different size screws that are in there. We just disconnect everything, and we'll pop it out, get the board out, and then we'll have a little look. So I've pulled the connector off the fan cable as well, so not a great start. So if I do fix it, I'm going to have to get a new fan at the end of the world. So the board doesn't really look bent, it doesn't look like it's got that much damage to it, so I'm sort of hopeful it could be fixed, but not overly confident. So we get it under the microscope, and then all we need to do is heat up these 2 RAM chips. Sounds simple. So just to show you what I need to do, so you need to get a pin into the shielding, into these clips here, and then you just sort of work it around. This one already seemed a little bit loose, and then you just get the pin underneath, bend the tabs out, and then once you've got enough around the side, you can just literally lift it up and it pops off. Now these are the 2 chips that we need to rework, so hopefully we can get this going. I've just put a bit of Kapton tape around all the plastic, just to make sure that nothing gets melted while I'm heating it up. Then I'm going to put a nice load of flux around both RAM chips. I don't have enough, and then I'll get my heat gun in. So I'm going about 370, 380 C with a speed of around about 70%. I just need to keep moving it along back and forward, ensure we're getting across all both RAM chips, and then when required just add a little bit more flux, so it's going to keep pushing underneath. and then just keep circling around, and then after a couple of minutes you can give it a little tiny nudge, nothing too hard, and the chip should be moving, and that shows that the solder balls have melted, and then this is going to be what we call a successful reflow. So the bottom one nudges as well. Anything harder than that, and you're going to knock the solder balls and ruin it completely. And then you remove the heat and then let it cool down. Only once it's cool can you put some isopropyl alcohol on and give it a really good clean, get rid of all of that excess flux. As you can see, when you remove the Kapton tape, there's a load of flux underneath as well, so give it a good clean. You want to get rid of all of it so it gets rid of all the stickiness and all of the mess. Then once we're happy, we can place it back into the housing. So I just need to make the connections. You only have to put a couple on there, don't need to worry about Joy-Cons, etc. So we've got these two ribbon cables that we need to connect along the top, and then we just need to pop in the battery and then make this ribbon cable connector go into the two together. And then because we've got no battery, I'm going to have to just plug the charger back into it. So we plug the charger in, and I've got a blue screen still, so not what we wanted. So I'm going to give it one more chance. I'm going to give it one more reflow. So we just need to get the board back out, and then we'll go again. So looking from the side, it doesn't look like there's any kind of separation, but there could be. It's just might not be able to view it from this angle. So I'll just put it back into my board. Once again, we apply plenty more flux, and then we'll get the hot air gun and then just go around both chips and then keep it moving. Plenty of heat, plenty of flux. And after a minute or two, you can just give it a little nudge, and you can see RAM chips moving, so that one's been completely melted. And then we'll do the other one, get a bit of movement, so the solder balls have melted, and then we can give it a minute again, and then we'll see if this one's worked. So remove your heat, let it cool down, and then just wait a good few minutes till it's nice and cold again. And then again, give it a good clean, remove all the Kapton tape again, remove all the excess. So second time lucky, the board goes back in. So we connect the cables, connect the battery, connect the joining ribbon cable that connects it to the daughter board, slide it in, and we've still got a blue screen. So unfortunately, I'm going to say this is going to have to be a no fix. It must be some serious damage to the solder balls. There must be some rip traces, so reflow's not enough. So now we're moving on to the other switch. So we need to repair the Joy-Con rail. So we'll get all the screws out the back, and then we'll move into removing the heat shield. So a couple of screws on the back of this, get them out. Tough one in the corner, just couldn't seem to be getting it. I don't know whether someone's been in here already. These two, whatever bit I tried, I just couldn't get them out. Totally stripped. So the only option, unfortunately, is to snap it off. Luckily, I've got some replacement heat shields, so it's not too bad. So just wiggle it back and forward, and then we just pop it out. And then just get me pliers, and then I can just gently grab hold of the screws, twist it round, and then I can remove the two strip screws so that we can reuse this casing when we get it fixed. So then we need to get the screws onto the side rail. So we'll just disconnect the ribbon cable there. And then we've got a little broken piece here, which shouldn't be a major issue. And then if we have a look at the side, you can see there's a massive dent. Don't know how that's done, must have took some force. So initially I was looking at trying to bend it out, but it's a really tough side rail, and there was no way I was going to be able to bend it. I've just had to get a replacement, so we'll just connect that to the side. So we'll make the connection, we'll turn it on, and then we'll just make sure the Joy-Cons will connect. So the right one was the one with the issue. Get to the screen, it's still a little bit tight, but it makes the connection noise. And then we pop the other one in, and there you can see we can now set it up. So we're almost done, but not quite. So we ran through, set it all up, so it all seems to be working okay. But we do have one little issue, which I noticed when I had the back open. We got a bit of damage to the connector that connects the SD card. Seems to be missing a couple of pins. So we're going to have to get the motherboard out. So we disconnect all the cables, take out all the screws, flip it over, and then we'll get it under the microscope. So as you can see, we're missing 2 of the pads at the top, so the SD card will not be detected. So what we're going to have to do is apply a little bit of flux and then add some heat from underneath. I always move the NAND chip to the left because it can sometimes warp under the heat. So I'm applying heat underneath, 380, around about 70% airflow. And then just keep moving it. You just need to make sure you don't touch any of the chips underneath, otherwise you're going to cause some major damage. Then once the solder melts, you can lift the pad away, no issues there. And then we'll pop a new one straight back on. So normally I would just add a little bit of fresh solder onto them pads, but they all looked okay. So I decided to go with the solder that's already on there. So you just position the new connector in as good a position as possible. Sometimes the solder will put into place, other times you might need to just give it a little nudge back and forward, but it's minute touches that you need to do, otherwise it flies out of place very easily. And once you're happy, remove the heat, let it cool down. You'll see the solder joints go to a different colour. And then if we check it under the microscope, it looks like we've got good connections that side and good connections that side. So I'm happy with that. Give it a little clean with isopropyl alcohol again, and we're ready to get it all back together. So just a quick look at the SD card connector, and then you can see there's one of the pins itself broken out. So that's what we were missing. You can try and fix these, but pointless really. So I'm just going to connect it back up as the housing's off, just to make sure that I've made a good solder. Pop the battery back in. We'll turn it on. So now that we're all set up, we can load it straight up. Now we started up, all we need to do is go through, and as you can quickly see, the SD card is being detected. It's hard to disconnect it while you're there, while the back's off, but we get the error message saying it's been disconnected, so the SD card connector is now working. We just need to put it back together. I noticed the fan was slightly damaged, so again, no point trying to fix that. I'm just going to have to pop a new one in, and also the heat shield, there's no point trying to fix that either. So just got a new fan connector, applied a little bit of thermal paste, attached my battery. Forgot to make the connection there, which I should have done before the battery, but no harm. And then we'll pop all the screws back in. We'll pop the SD card connector back in as well. Screw everything in. And we'll pop the back heat shield on. We just need to give it a quick dust before we put it back on. It's a bit dirty. Now it's all back together. Now as you can see, it is still slightly tight. There is a bit of damage. So all I'm going to do is very carefully get a very sharp knife, which you get out from your iFixit kit. And I'm just going to slightly slice off the little bit that's been bashed down, and it's going to make it a little bit tougher. It's easier than changing the complete housing. And now you can see it slips on nice and smooth. And it's detected as well. And it's nice and solid. So we put the back cover back on. We just put all the screws back in the sides now that we're happy. Slide the Joy-Cons back in one more time just to prove that we're all okay, which we are. And then that's it. So unfortunately, the switch light, I was hoping it would have been a fixable one with a reflow, but someone's really done a job on this. They've obviously bent it, they broke all the pads underneath the RAM. So someone with better skill set than me will be able to fix it. It's just above my level. Whereas the other switch, all it needed was a little bit of a Joy-Con repair and a little bit of a connector repair. So a little bit more than I was expecting, but at least it was doable and fixable. And when we pop an SD card in, it shows it's detected, so it's nice and fixed. So at least I've got one out of the two, so not too bad for the price. So thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.